Your body aches. Every step is agony. Every breath a battle. Even the smallest stumble could shatter your bones into dust. Welcome to your new home, a world built to break you. And it's only going to get worse. On today's episode of the Infographic Show, we'll explore what life would really be like on Super Earth. The name is deceiving. A super Earth only refers to a planet's size, not how Earth-like it actually is. These worlds are more massive than Earth, but lighter than gas giants like Neptune or Uranus. Most sit somewhere between twice the size of the Earth and up to 10 times its mass. That means stronger gravity, heavier atmospheres, and alien environments unlike anything in our solar system. And because we don't have one nearby to visit, they remain mysterious. Some super-Earths might be rocky with oceans, others might be frozen or wrapped in thick, choking gas. Somewhere between 3 and 10 times Earth's mass, the rules of planet formation get weird. No one knows exactly where Rocky Planet ends and Mini Neptune begins. Astronomers have discovered thousands of exoplanets in the last 3 decades, and super-Earths appear to be one of the most common. But if they are everywhere, what would it actually feel like to live on one? You have just landed on a super-Earth. And it looks familiar enough, blue skies, some clouds, and a large body of water in the distance, but then you take a step, and it suddenly feels like you are wearing an invisible backpack filled with bricks. Gravity is your new worst enemy. It's worth mentioning that a planet's gravity depends on its mass and size. A world with twice Earth's mass but the same radius doubles your weight. One with Earth's mass but twice the size cuts your weight in half. Let's assume the super-Earths we'll be exploring increase their mass and size proportionally. As you begin to walk, your muscles and bones would feel the extra weight immediately. Standing upright takes effort. Jumping would be practically impossible. Even jogging would leave you exhausted. Your body would be operating under immense strain. It's a workout you did not sign up for. Your heart now has to pump much harder against the strong pull of gravity. Oxygen struggles to reach your brain. On a world 4 times Earth's mass or more, blood might not reach any organ above your lungs. You would lose consciousness within seconds. And then there's your lungs. A super-Earth's atmosphere would likely be thicker because higher gravity holds on to more gas. Breathing feels like inhaling through syrup as the weight of the air presses against your chest. Even if the oxygen levels are fine, the density alone makes each breath a slow, labored effort. The high air pressure also has an effect on delicate tissues, like in your sinuses or ears. Headaches, nosebleeds, and dizziness could be a daily experience. Long-term survival would require living in controlled environments until your body is able to adapt. Pregnancy would be even more complicated. Higher gravity affects how nutrients and oxygen flow between the mother and the fetus. This could lead to stunted growth or dangerous complications. Early humans might need to rely on artificial wombs or special habitats just to reproduce safely. If you were actually born on a super-Earth, your body would develop differently. You'd be shorter, thicker, and stronger. If you were to visit the Earth, you would feel like a superhero. You could jump higher, move faster, and carry heavier objects with ease. The more massive a planet is, the more extreme things get. On a world with 5 times the Earth's gravity, you might not be able to stand at all. At 10 times, the gravitational force would snap your bones and collapse your skeleton. So, could we live here? Only with help. If humans ever lived on a super-Earth, we would need technology to simulate Earth-like gravity inside habitats. Outside, powered exosuits would be vital. Even early prototypes on Earth today can multiply human strength. But on a high-gravity planet, this wouldn't just be a tool, it would be life support. Buildings would have to change too. Tall structures like skyscrapers would crumble under their own weight. Cities would be built low and wide, hugging the ground like fortified bunkers. Walls and support beams would need to be reinforced with ultra-dense materials such as carbon composites or alloys. Dome-shaped megastructures would become the design of choice. Transport would be reinvented. Flight would be almost impossible. Thick, heavy atmosphere and high gravity means that anything that flies would need rocket-level thrust. Vehicles would be stocky, squat machines with heavy traction and robust suspension systems just to handle the planet's immense pull. Even walking around the cities would be exhausting. Workspaces would rely on powered exosuits or gravity reduction technologies just to help workers move efficiently. Whole industries would emerge around reducing or manipulating gravity, the same way we rely on energy and fuel on Earth. And then there's the bigger problems. A super-Earth's gravity wouldn't just crush you, it pulls in more asteroids and comets. Earth gets hit with Armageddon-type collisions every few million years. On a super-Earth, civilization might have to deal with catastrophic impacts every few thousand years. Civilization would constantly get knocked back into the Stone Age, forced to restart from scratch over and over again. Survival would depend on early warning systems, massive underground shelters, or even space-based defenses until technology was advanced enough to stop such events. And underground might be the safest place to be. Gravity decreases the closer you get to the center of a planet. A future human civilization on Super Earth might burrow deep into the crust, living in underground megacities just to be protected from the crushing gravity and asteroids. But there are also some upsides to having a society on Super Earth. A massive planet would have a thicker atmosphere and stronger magnetic field, a natural shield against solar radiation. Agriculture would change too, but it wouldn't be impossible. Plants might grow shorter and sturdier with dense stems and roots. Humans might rely on genetically engineered crops and underground hydroponic farms where conditions can be controlled more easily. The planet's internal heat could also last longer and generate geothermal plants. Wind and solar energy might struggle due to the dense atmosphere, but geothermal and nuclear systems would thrive. Super Earth wouldn't necessarily be a barren hellscape. Civilization could grow, but only if it could adapt. One positive for any landing team is that mountains would be smaller. On Earth, gravity limits how tall mountains can grow because rock eventually begins to collapse under its own weight. On a super Earth, even a small mountain would slowly crush itself to the ground. The landscape would likely be smoother, flatter, and more compact, shaped into rolling highlands instead of towering peaks. Scientists have two main ideas about how a super Earth's crust and mantle would behave. Some research believes that intense gravity thins the plates and increases stress, causing frequent earthquakes and massive eruptions. But other studies say the opposite. The crust might become so strong and compressed under high pressure that plate tectonics could stop entirely. Volcanoes could be rare, but heat would build up underground for millions of years, eventually releasing in world-changing super eruptions. As you go deeper into the super Earth toward the core, things get even more intense. A planet with 10 times Earth's mass would have a larger iron core. The pressure inside the planet would be many times greater than the Earth's, solidifying the iron core, which would be a big problem if you wanted to live there. A molten core generates a protective magnetic field around the planet. No currents means no magnetic field. The planet's surface would be exposed to huge amounts of cosmic radiation and charged particles from solar storms. Anything on the planet's surface would literally be cooked. The DNA of any living thing, including humans, would be bombarded with radiation, resulting in a buildup of mutations. But what about the weather? A dense atmosphere traps heat and energy, making storms monstrous. Hurricanes could grow larger and last for months. Violent winds would slam into the surface with deadly force. The thick air would act like a thermal blanket, intensifying storms and driving extreme temperatures. If the planet orbits close to its star, then the atmosphere would turn into a humid greenhouse, where oceans would evaporate into endless clouds of vapor. But if the planet sits farther from its star, the atmosphere could hold on to heat, creating a world of constant fog, permanent twilight, and slow, heavy winds. Many super-Earths might even be tidally locked, meaning that one side always faces their star while the other remains in eternal darkness. One half would bake under the unending daylight, and the other would be frozen solid in eternal night. The line between them that is constantly bathed in twilight, known as the Terminator Zone, is the only place where the temperatures are even remotely livable. Could life exist there? Probably, but it would be different. Trees could not grow tall, the gravity would crush them. Instead, they would be low and thick, hugging the ground like a living fortress. Their trunks would be squat with dense wood. Branches would spread wide rather than high. Leaves might even evolve to be broad and dark, capturing every bit of sunlight that passes through the atmosphere. Animals wouldn't leap or jump, instead they would crawl, creep, or slither. Hollow bones would snap instantly, so evolution would favor compact, muscular forms low to the ground. In thick air, some might even swim through the atmosphere using fins or webbed limbs. Different types of super-Earths would produce different ecosystems. If the planet's atmosphere was heavy with oxygen, metabolism could run high. That means small, powerful creatures could thrive, bursting with energy, while larger animals might move slowly and deliberately, conserving their strength in an environment that constantly weighs them down. Many of the planets discovered by astronomers orbit dangerously close to their stars, some almost as close as Mercury is to our Sun. If life somehow existed there, it would have to survive in a superheated, high-pressure atmosphere. It might exist only as extremophile microbes hidden in shadows or clinging to mineral surfaces. Some scientists believe that there might be water worlds where the entire planet is covered by global oceans. That might sound perfect for aquatic life, but the reality is far different. On these worlds, the oceans could plunge hundreds or even thousands of miles deep. creating high-pressure ice layers at the bottom, trapping life in the upper waters. Hydrothermal vents might support alien ecosystems similar to our deep-sea life. It's possible that microbial or oceanic life could exist in shallow regions above the high-pressure ice layer, feeding on dissolved minerals and chemical energy. Deep currents could create nutrient cycles, and hydrothermal vents powered by the planet's internal heat might host ecosystems similar to the ones around Earth's deep-sea vents. In darker, tidally locked worlds, ecosystems could form in the narrow twilight band. Plants or other photosynthetic organisms might evolve to thrive in the dim red light of a permanent sunset. Heat-loving microbes, on the other hand, would cling to the scorched zones forever baked by the system's sun. Life on a super-Earth would likely be low, dense, and efficient. If life can adapt to these extreme worlds, it won't look anything like we've ever seen before. It'll be alien in every sense of the word, shaped by gravity, pressure, and a planet that is unique in its own way. So, could humans really survive on a planet like this? If humans stayed on such a world for generations, evolution would reshape our species. Muscles would become one of the first body structures to change. People would develop incredibly strong legs, dense core muscles, and thicker necks to keep their heads upright. Over generations, humans might evolve or be genetically engineered to be shorter and stockier, reducing the strain of gravity on their bodies. On a planet with twice Earth's gravity, the average human might stand barely 3 or 4 feet tall. Bones would also need to be denser and reinforced. On Earth, astronauts in microgravity lose up to 1 to 2% of bone mass per month in space. On Super-Earth, the reverse would happen. The body would constantly add density to support the weight. Voice pitch might also drop to help travel better through thick air, similar to a whale song. And speech itself might increase due to the fact that sound waves would move faster in the denser air of a super-Earth. Technology would assist long before biology could. Powered exoskeletons could help humans walk, lift, and move freely in high-gravity environments. It would be necessary for survival. Medicine and bioengineering would also play a role in humanity's future. Genetic editing technologies like CRISPR could be used to pre-adapt colonists before they ever set foot on Super-Earth. Scientists could essentially customize human physiology for new gravitational environments. Long-term, humanity might turn to cybernetic or synthetic evolution. Instead of adapting biologically, we might merge with our technology. Cybernetic implants could regulate heart rate, muscle strain, and blood flow. In time, our descendants on a super-Earth might not even be fully biological, but biomechanical hybrids optimized for a world that would crush a regular human under their own weight. Living on a super-Earth sounds tempting if it would result in superhuman strength and the study of exotic plants and animals. Astronomers have already found dozens of super-Earths all orbiting within their star's habitable zones. In fact, some of these worlds might even be paradise. But the truth is, paradise always comes with a price. Life on a super-Earth wouldn't be like life on the Earth. It would be incredibly difficult for the first settlers, who would need to navigate crushing gravity, intense storms, and an environment like nothing we have on our planet. Even if we had the technology to terraform, genetically enhance, or adapt ourselves for super-Earth, we might still find that there is no place like home. Now watch, you won't believe these insane planets that actually exist, or click on this video instead.